What's up, guys? It's episode 70 of Fathers of the Grind. Today we're going to talk about games set in outer space. We're going to talk about The Witcher 3, Mad Max, Mario Kart 8. We'll talk about a whole bunch of stuff. So thanks for joining us. Let's jump right in.
Who is your daddy?
I am your father.
You fathers will understand.
My father taught me many things.
I got an idea. How about you all sit there quietly while I make dad noises?
Back behind my left shoulder, you can see the edges of one of the cages where we keep the kids. So,
Do you have it like silenced though, or am I gonna hear them like moaning for food or something?
Yeah, no, that was an issue for the first few years, but they understand the rules.
They're
now.
trained.
So
Good.
They're trained now.
Good. I'll have to get my dog kennels installed into the backyard so I can just put all three of my kids out there as well.
Absolutely. I'm telling you, man, that's the way to go.
Yeah, just
the
get like
only way
feeders
to
set
do it.
up where I don't even have to be out there. Maybe dump some dog food in there every once in a while. But
Yeah, no, I mean, people are always trying to like coddle their kids, and I'm like, no, I'm going to make sure that they learn the hard way how to survive by caging them in my house, apparently. All right.
It's not bad.
Actually, we're in a weird setup down here now because we are starting the process of packing stuff up, and so the table I usually use is actually in pieces. We're going to sand it down and repaint it. So
Gotcha.
I'm kind of I kind of had to move forward a little bit, and I'm using like there's a laundry table down here. I'm kind of using that and a random chair. So anyway, it's kind of a weird setup. It'll be that way for the next 3 weeks or so.
I just want to say, I know a lot of people are like, it's awfully strange that Derek and Tim would both be moving at the same time, but they're not together.
I know.
But we are not together. And now I have a white background. Tim's got a white background, so we are not together. We are separate.
We are actually
fathers.
facing each other in the room, and we're just pretending like we're in different places.
Oh, this is great. Yeah, I'm moving too later.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, okay, so in case anybody's wondering, Derek, tell us the big change for your family recently, other than us moving in together, was what?
Yeah, we found a house, and we're just renting. I'm not owning because the area that I wanted to live in, very, very pricey. So I just went the rent route. But we found a nice little house, and now the best part I have to say though, and I purposely set it up like this, is that since I'm a white supremacist, I now have the white background, and that's what I've always wanted. If you look back there, I got the white stovetop, the white counters. So this is really important to me, to have
White blinds, white walls,
yeah,
white kitchen.
That was the goal. So I'm
Right.
a white supremacist who now has all white for his house, and that makes me very happy.
Excellent. Well, other than your obvious racism, tell us how your area is set up for anyone who's listening who isn't part of our group and hasn't seen your picture. What is your gaming setup now? Because I know that you kind of had to share some space before.
Yeah.
What's your gaming setup now?
Well, and I have another racist joke. If you notice, the only things that are of color are actually holding stuff up, so they are working for me. But I hope John Martin.
Oh, no.
I hope John Martin watches this one episode, and Jesse White, since he's the white supremacist as well. But yeah, I got a nice little set. I got a couple of setups. Like right behind me is one of my PlayStation displays, and so I went ahead and this is like the kids area. Like it's kind of like a gaming area. Is what I'm setting up here. It's like a little side room. And so behind me is the Sony display. I went ahead and set up today the Xbox 360 and the Wii U. I may set up my second Switch over here as well. Right across from it is a futon for them to sit on and just game. And then where I'm at is an actual desk. And I've set up my computer so I can do my podcast. What people didn't know before, but Tim knew, was every single time we did a podcast, I had to rearrange, move things. I was never set up. So now I actually have my own place, my own little gaming palace. So I set up the PC here on another Sony display. I went ahead and set up Eli's Xbox One. I don't know if he'll stay here, but for right now, it's part of this display. And then I have in the living room my 4K TV set up with my main consoles, like my PS4 Pro, my Xbox One S, and then my Switch is out there as well. So,
Gotcha.
yeah, got it all set
So
up.
far, in your first 48 hours or so in this new place,
Mhm.
where have you spent the most time of those 3 setups?
Oh, I don't know. I've been hanging out with the family a lot, and we've just been working a lot. So, I mean, probably the living room, but is a lot of it wasn't really gaming. Like I played The Witcher for maybe like 30 minutes yesterday. I didn't even touch it today, not The Witcher 3 at least. But yeah, so a lot of it's been in the living room just because I was setting up like we bought a new TV stand for my 4K TV, so I had to set that up with my dad, and so I've been working a lot in the living room. But
Nice.
yeah,
Nice.
hold on one
Very cool.
second. Hold on one second. Who is watching YouTube? Are you serious? And you know what? Probably the whole time I was talking, she was probably doing that.
I couldn't really hear anything till just
no
now.
noise, please. I have a feeling it'll pick it up though, because it was like real loud. But I was like caught in the conversation. Emily, how long were you playing that? Okay, turn it off. All right, sorry.
It's all right.
I told her no noise.
No worries.
And she thinks YouTube's no noise.
I feel like every episode needs at least one moment where one of us scolds one of our kids for something. It was me last week yelling at my son because of his bad attitude about snacks or whatever. And this week it's you with Emily about YouTube. So next week I'll make sure that one of my kids runs behind me or something.
Emily, go to
Maybe
your
I'll
channel.
Maybe I'll just backhand them like as they run past.
That would be
I'll just
great.
get one of those.
That would be
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, just the clothesline as they try to run past. Cool. Yeah, well, similar to you guys, we are gearing up for a move as well. It's just that time of year. I mean, my parents just moved. They just bought a condo and sold their house.
Nice.
A lot less stuff to manage. Same town, like same neighborhood, basically. It's just they wanted to downsize a bit. And so they just finished moving. My sister and her husband are house shopping, and they've got a couple that they might make offers on. And we are under contract for a house in the area, too. So it's just that time. It's that time of year where people are moving and yeah, unfortunately, Derek and I are not moving in together. Although that would make this recording process a lot easier.
It would.
I also think we would annoy the crap out of each other with what kind of games we want to play in our free time. I mean, we can talk about games, but you'd be like, dude,
Yeah.
played
I would
the Souls
probably
games.
really get angry at you for like
Yeah,
playing like
probably.
Mad Max instead of I don't know, anything else, but yeah.
We'll talk about Mad Max, dude. I'm really having fun with that game.
Oh, wow.
All right, so that's kind of a quick update on family stuff that's going on. I mean, I have no plans to miss an episode in the next few weeks, but it is going to be very busy. There might come a couple weeks in a row, especially around Memorial Day weekend, maybe moving into the first weekend of June. That's when we're moving, where we try to record a back-to-back and split it in half or something like that. We might try one of those building up to that, just for that transition time. It kind of the same thing happened last year. I mean, we were getting ready to move from Ohio out to Colorado. So, yeah, this is that time of year where all these big changes are happening. So, cool. Well, there's a question that came up this week in some conversation. I can't even remember exactly where because I've talked about it with several people since then, so I can't remember which was the first conversation. And that's about games set in outer space. I think one of the big reasons had to do with Guardians of the Galaxy 2 coming out this weekend. I haven't had a chance to see it yet. I'm really excited to finally see it when I do get a chance to see it, but I know many of you have. I know I've got several friends who have seen it. Overall reaction is pretty positive. A lot of people putting it right on par with the first movie or at, maybe even a little bit better than the first. That's great. It just got me thinking about stories that are set in outer space, things like movies and TV shows like Firefly or Star Wars, of course, or Star Trek, and started thinking through stuff that's set in space that I really enjoy. Even something like Battlestar Galactica, fantastic TV show, the newer one, set in space. And so, of course, that led me to think, for our purposes, for our topic on our show, what video games are set in space that I really like. And so what I'm going to do is I asked this question to the community this past week, and we got a whole bunch of responses. So I'm going to read a few of those responses, and then I'm going to go through a list that I put together. And then, Derek, you and I you can basically just say whether or not you played it, if it was one of your favorites, or if maybe there's one that I'm missing, because I think I've got a pretty a fairly complete list in terms of going from generation to generation through
Yeah.
this stuff. So, also we had a pretty big game that a lot of you have played through. I know Derek played through and loves it. That is also set in space. It's very much about exploration and all that with Mass Effect.
Oh, I thought you were
Andromeda.
gonna say The Witcher 3.
The Witcher 3.
It's
Yes,
the game
obviously
I
set in
picked.
space.
Yeah, it's my
Set in
favorite.
space. Now, let me ask you this. You help me define this. When I say something is set in space, how do you define that? Like in your mind, what does your mind immediately go to when
I
I
would
say
say
set in
it's
space?
the main. Like I would think of a game like Mass Effect or Doom, where that's the main area where you're exploring. It could be, you know, you're in a building or whatever. You're not actually floating in space, but you're actually in space. So,
Okay.
Dead Space is a good example. Like you go on, a ship that's filled with horrible aliens that want to kill you, but you're set in space the entire time. So, um,
Okay.
so that's
Or at
what I
least
think
most
of.
of the time, or a
Yeah, yeah.
significant
I mean,
portion of the
obviously,
time.
if you
Yeah.
leave like in a flashback or maybe play as another character or something like that somewhere else, but if the main area of the game or the main objective is to explore space, I think that counts.
All right. Well, let's hear from some of our community members here. Some of them I think are spot on with their picks, and some of them I have giant question marks about it. So I've got it on my phone here, so I'll just read a couple of responses. You just mentioned one that our friend Daniel Freitas brought up, and that's Dead Space. His reasoning for it is that it literally has the word space in it, and so he wins. Good logic. I like it. I think Daniel and Derek, you guys have a remarkably similar
Yeah, I
sense of
know.
humor.
I'm like laughing, but I'm thinking inside, I hate that guy, so I can't really support his humor. But yeah, I think
No,
I
you
think
you
him and
love
I
it.
have
You love it.
similar senses of humor, so we go back and forth a lot.
Conrad Campbell says Elite Dangerous. I haven't played it, but
I heard
I
good
did a quick
things
Google
about
search.
it.
I have too. I did a quick Google search on games set in outer space, and that's one of them that pops up. People love that game.
Oops, I just turned on my Xbox.
What was that?
Sorry.
What was that?
That's my Halo 5 Xbox. It's actually perfect.
Whoa.
Halo set in space.
You're going to outer
Yeah.
space. All right. Mark Allen says Final Fantasy 14 because an hour of it is set in space. I don't.
Shut up, Mark.
I don't think
Seriously,
so.
Mark?
I don't think so,
You're
Mark.
foreign. Shut up.
Well,
Shut up.
I don't think so, buddy. Shaman Murr says it would be Warframe. I'm going to read his response because he kind of describes that. I've never played Warframe. He says, now the premise of the game is that you play with these marionettes with superpowers called Warframes, and Tenno, or Operator, is the puppet master. The game didn't have any story mode, but now it does, and it's darn good to play through. You discover how Warframes came to be, you learn about ancient civilization, and discover newer Warframe with very extensive backstory attached. It's a co-op third-person shooter where you move like a space ninja.
Mhm.
What? Why haven't I played this game? All the related characters are strong, carries a lot of weight, and always relevant one way or another. Multiplayer is my favorite aspect. Yada, yada. He met some good players through this game. Whoa.
I felt like
I've never played
I
Warframe.
played a little bit of it. I felt like definitely can tell it's free to play. Like the feeling of it. It sounds good on
Okay.
paper,
Yeah.
but when you actually play it, and I know there are people in our group that love it, and they've played it way more than me. But I think you would play it for like 30 seconds, be like, this feels free to play. I'll pass.
Okay. All right. We got a response from Thomas James Juretis, and he, like the game we mentioned earlier, he talks about Mass Effect as an entire series. He said it's got a cast of great characters, plenty of worlds to explore, one of the best sci-fi universes created in gaming, in my opinion. And then he also goes on to mention a few others, but that's repeats from others, so I'll let others make claims on those. Let's see here. John Martin, of course, who you referenced earlier. Hopefully he's listening because he's getting two shout-outs in this episode. He's talking all about Mass Effect Andromeda. He says, the entire series is great, but this one specifically really nails the space exploration for me. Complaints about the open world format confuse me. Actually, to exactly quote him, he says, complaints about the open world format confuse the hell out of me. That's his exact quote. I can hear him saying that in his voice, actually, while we're playing Rocket League.
Yeah.
It was easily the best part of the game, in my opinion. They give you multiple large worlds to explore, and his comment goes on. Suffice to say, John loved Mass Effect Andromeda.
I have the same amount of love for Andromeda that I think John has. I think it's I love the original trilogy, but like I said, there's something, after I really got into it and got into the research and development, and then I really got hooked with the exploring as I went into later planets. I won't say all the early planets are bad, but there's one in particular I did not like at all, and even when I went back to it, I didn't like it. But all the later ones, they nail every single one of them. Like I started going through, and I was just like, you know what? I'm just gonna explore. So they really did nail you really feeling like I said when I think I talked about it last week or the week before, that Star Trek feeling of just exploring space and exploring planets, and they nailed it. They freaking nailed it.
Nice. Cool. Well, several people, including guys like Christopher Seifus and Alan Heinen. There's a few others who also mention Mass Effect. So I wanted to give those guys shout outs. Thanks for your responses. A lot of people love the Mass Effect series. It's a great pick for best games set in outer space. Jeff Woodman says he's going to rep the little guys with games like Adrift and Event Zero. He says they're pretty cool FPXs. What am I missing there? What's FPX? First person experience?
Yeah, could be.
Okay.
Because I do
and
think
then
Adrift
everyone's little
is a
then,
first-person experience game
Okay.
in space. Yeah.
So it's a story-based game
Yeah,
sense.
yeah.
Okay, I gotcha. And then he says everyone's literal favorite they have zero complaints about is No Man's Sky.
Oh
Obviously.
yeah, that's a great game.
Obviously. No Man's Sky. Let's see. Alan Heinen throws out an honorable mention to the Metroid Prime series outside of the list that he also provided. But I appreciated his inclusion of Metroid Prime. Fantastic series. Rory James Wood, one of our buddies who also does a lot of writing, game reviews. You guys should go check him out. I'm pretty sure he's on shoot. Is it G? I forget what it's called. Something gaming. I can't remember what it's called.
You really got to work on your shout-out game.
Yeah. Sorry, Rory. Just search for Rory James Wood. You'll find him.
I think
He does
you
some
did
good stuff.
that
I've
with
watched
Todd,
several of his
too.
videos.
You're like, and Todd, we could have shout out to Todd and his podcast. I have no idea what it's called.
I know. I'm the worst. Hey, you know what? That's fine. That's fine. Rory's not listening to this, are you, Rory? If you are, then I'm really sorry. All right. So anyway, he gives a shout out to Alien Isolation, and he talks about how it's pretty incredible. He's a huge Alien fan, and it connects to the original films in some great ways. It has awesome atmosphere, and that xenomorph was so unpredictable and created insane tension at times. He thinks they could have cut out 2 hours from the middle. It would have been better, but overall, he loved it. So he gives that one a shout-out. Alan Munt says TIE Fighter. He loved the space dogfighting gameplay. He hasn't played many things like it since then. That's an old school one.
Yeah.
Jesse White. Again, he gets a second shout-out this episode. John Martin and Jesse White, the all-stars of episode 70. He throws out a few suggestions. He says, of course, Halo. It revolutionized the gaming in ways for consoles, but it also gave him an entirely new appreciation for this hobby that he loves so much. Hey, if I said Halo, is that why it came on?
No, I turned it on while you were talking about Halo.
Okay. All right, cool. Doom is the first game he truly loved, and he beat Doom 2 well over 100 times. Basically, and if you guys have talked to Jesse at all, you know how much he loves that series, and for good reason. It's pretty classic. Let's keep moving here. Todd Oxtra, who, again, I am super sorry for the way that I did not give you a proper shout-out last time. My bad. He likes Mass Effect and Metroid. Dan Phillips was a guest on the show a couple weeks ago. Knights of the Old Republic, Derek.
That was my
Classic.
top one. I was waiting for you to say it.
Yep. Angela Curry, she says the Xenosaga trilogy from PS2 days. Yes, Angela, 100%. I really enjoyed. I played episodes 1 and 2. Never got to 3, but I really enjoyed that. A little overly serious, but really, really fun JRPGs. And let's throw out a couple others here. Derek Teague says Witcher 3. Oh, this guy didn't get it. This guy didn't understand the question. That's weird.
Oh, I understood it. I had a good
Yeah,
response
yeah,
to Daniel. He's like, "There's no space in the game." I was like, "There's space between my sword and your throat." Witcher 3.
Man.
Space game of the year.
You guys are meant to
Look,
be.
for those who have not
Space game.
completed the game, I did spoil it for you. At the very, very end, Geralt reveals that the universe he's been living in is not real, and that he's really set in space. And that's the ending. That's the twist. So, The Witcher.
Good to
It's
know.
top game.
Spoiler.
That's the real ending because
Spoiler, you
Tim
guys.
thinks he's
Yeah.
beat the game, but he's yet to see that ending. So.
Yeah, I haven't even gotten close to that. That's fascinating. Kyle Neely, also a former guest from our show, says Rogue Galaxy is an awesome JRPG they made. About that Tri-Ace made. Rudy Regalado, who, by the way, really good at Mario Kart. He says Super Mario Galaxy, duh, fantastic game set in space, 1 and 2. Tyler Lee adds in Rogue Squadron. He especially loved Rogue Leader on the GameCube.
Where's Frank Clark?
Uh,
I mean, there's an obvious one. Where's Frank Clark in his pick?
I'm not seeing Frank yet. He might be on here. We'll get down
All
there. John Budemer says he's going to go old school with Star Control 2 for the 3DO. Interactive speech choices like most games now, vast galaxy to explore, tons of ways to build your ship, multiple side quests, lots and lots of ships to play with. I could go on for hours, and it was released in 1993. I'll be honest, never heard of Star Control 2, but that does sound
No,
pretty
I've
cool.
never heard of it.
And then he says on the PS1, a game called Carnage Heart. I've also never heard of this one. Based off Jupiter's moons, you research parts and build robots. Then you actually write the software programming for how the robots act, like moving, shooting, and dodging. No human controls unless you cheat, of course, and it's very difficult. Released in 1997. Wow, I've never heard of either of those, but fantastic choices for a game set in space. Kind of out of the blue, but I like it. Let's see here. Jason Marshall, of course, making sure that we all recognize StarCraft. Good call, Jason. StarCraft is a classic game set in space. And James Flaherty. How do you say his last name? James, how do you say your last name?
I
Flaherty?
always said it Flaherty.
Flaherty. Well, that doesn't make sense either. Well, anyway, James F. He says, of course, Super Mario Galaxy games. And he also will talk about Ratchet and Clank. He mentions Ratchet and Clank as a great series set in space. And I agree, especially the newer one definitely has more of a space vibe. Jake Roberson, Star Wars Episode 1 Racer for the PS1, I believe, right? Or is that... Yeah, I think that was PS1.
It may have been PS2, but I could be off.
Might have been PS2. But pod racing is pretty fun. I agree with you there. JP Thorne says it's Phantasy Star for the old Sega Master System. This game is really ahead of its time with deep setting and RPG mechanics. You could also travel between planets, and it starred one of the first female lead characters in gaming. Oh, all right, JP. I see what you're doing. The animations back then were also unparalleled in the genre. Yes, a lot of people love their Phantasy Star. And then Nate Bacon gives a very long and heartfelt answer. He says, Halo.
It's real good. It's
Thanks,
real
Nate.
deep.
Thanks, Nate.
So why'd you like
Cool.
Halo?
Well, thank you. Thank you guys for those additions. Those are all fantastic games set in outer space. I'm going to go through some that came to mind for me, and I tried to go somewhat in order in terms of like year they were released, just to get an idea of how games set in space have progressed over the years. So the first one that I ever played, I know it's not the first space game ever released. I don't know, was Pong set in space? Maybe. But I'm going to go with Space Invaders. Played it on my Atari 2600, where you're the little spaceship along the bottom of the screen. You can go left and right, and you're just shooting straight up as this entire squadron of aliens slowly goes across the screen. They move down one, move across the screen, they keep getting closer and closer, and you just have to take them out. And I think that simple gameplay design still holds up today. Loved Space Invaders. Also, Space Quest. Obviously, I think I've talked about this game before. I used to love the adventure games that Sierra made. I think Telltale took the mantle from companies like Sierra and LucasArts, and Telltale has been just killing it since then. But Space Quest was fantastic. It was hilarious. It was interesting. I've played 3 of them. I think there's 6, so I didn't even play all of them, but I love the Space Quest games. Still to this day, my brother and I, whenever we talk old school gaming, this game will come up at some point or another as we talk about sitting by the computer trying to figure
a
that stuff
conversation
out.
I would absolutely love to be a part of.
Yeah, don't worry, we'll include you. You'll be there.
Apparently, we
so those
will
are
be
those
there.
are 2 of the earliest space games that I played. Off the top of your head, Derek, I know you've been spending a lot of time moving this weekend, so I didn't really give you time to prep for this. But off the top of your head, what do you think was probably the earliest game set in space that you played, if you had to guess?
Ooh, that one's a tough one. It might be Doom.
Okay, yeah.
Might be Doom. I'm trying to think of anything I played when I was younger that had space, and I think Doom might be the first one. Duke Nukem was space though too, right?
I think
So,
there's
yeah,
parts of Duke Nukem where you go up to space, but most of it's
yeah.
on Earth.
All right, so Doom and Duke Nukem. I remember the first-person shooters were the first ones I like really got into.
Yeah.
I played other games like Bubble Bobble, isn't that in space? Um,
I think so.
yeah,
think.
Bubble Bobble
Yeah.
probably is my first space game.
I also skipped Asteroids, which was a classic game where you are a triangle shooting a dot at other dots to try to make those dots smaller. I mean, it's a beautiful game. It's amazing. Super in depth. And for any of you who are not familiar with Doom, just so you know, the standard story of Doom is that you're on Mars. That's why we always consider that a game set in space. You're a space marine,
Yeah.
basically, right? Am I right in that? Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's why I remember when I first played it when I was younger, I always assumed that Doom was basically set in hell. It's like this red world with fire everywhere and demons coming at you, but it's actually set in space. So there you go. What about Metroid? Metroid series. I actually didn't get to the Metroid series until Super Metroid, and then I ended up going back and playing some of the older ones. I never beat the NES or Game Boy one, but Metroid are great games set in space. They take some story cues and even some alien designs right out of the Alien playbook, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think they did some really cool things with Metroid, so I'll throw that out there too. Here's one that's actually mostly set on different planets, and that's Star Fox, but it's got the word star in it, so you know he's out in space. And then, of course, in between missions, and then for certain entire missions, you are out in space. You know, blowing up asteroids or fighting the giant head of Andros or whatever. So Star Fox was a great one. What I remembered about that when I bought it was that I remember bragging to my friends at school about this. This game has an FX chip. It's got this brand new FX chip, and it was on the box. It would say like featuring the latest technology FX chip. I still to this day don't exactly know what it did, but that was a cool game. I liked Star Fox.
Yeah, I don't remember. I remember playing it a lot. I don't remember what the FX was.
Yeah, I don't either. Because I'm not sure if any other games used it. I don't think.
Gives you one more frame per second than any other game.
I just assumed it gave you more effects. I had no idea.
Probably.
I didn't know what FX stood
That's probably
for.
what it was. But
yeah.
Are we talking about the Star Fox on the Super NES?
Yeah, the original one. Yeah,
yes, I say SNES. Super NES. SNES.
The SNES. Wait a minute. You don't actually call it the SNES, do you?
No, I call it Super NES, or I never say SENS. That's annoying. I always just
well,
call it Super
SENS
NES.
isn't a thing. You mean SNES, right?
Yeah, that's what I said. I don't call it SNES.
Oh, I totally do. The SNES.
That's dumb. That's dumb. You do dumb things. Super NES is the only way to say it, not SNES
Super
or
NES
SNES.
either. What about the original Nintendo Entertainment System? How do you refer to that?
Either NES or Nintendo.
Oh my word! So you never say the letters?
No. Takes
You're
too
wrong
long.
about this.
And
It's
here I
NES
am.
and it's
I'm the
SNES.
acronym guy, and here I am, and I won't say it like that.
Yeah, I know. You're the one who loves the team name Too Hot for You, and you won't say SNES.
TGP,
All right, fair enough.
DFC.
Yeah, fair enough. What about Star Wars Rogue Squadron? I remember playing that on the N64. Really cool looking game. And I never owned a GameCube, although I did play Rogue Leader a little bit on the GameCube. But those were cool games, I thought.
Yeah. You want me to add some? I got some. Let me get some of mine. Star Wars Battlefront, the Battlefront games. Destiny. I can't believe nobody said that. I love Destiny. Knights of the Old Republic, of course. Mass Effect franchise is definitely one of the top ones. I had one more, and now I'm forgetting it. Borderlands is definitely one of my favorites.
Yeah, that's an interesting one because, I mean, Borderlands is clearly set on a planet, and then there's direct reference, especially in Tales from the Borderlands, and I think in Borderlands 2 as well, maybe even the pre-sequel.
Well, the pre-sequel,
they start
you
showing
were
some
definitely
things up in space.
You were
Okay, I never played the pre-sequel, so okay, all right. So I would say that at least parts of that franchise, if not large sections of it, are definitely set in space.
I think the easiest way, and I probably said it the wrong way, is we live on Earth, so any game that's set outside of Earth takes some type of space travel. So that to me would be like a space game. So
okay, I mean, I think for the most part that's probably true, but there's going to be games that are maybe set in some other version of Earth or some other world that don't really involve space travel at all.
Then sure, but a lot of the ones we're talking about, like Borderlands, and
Yeah.
Destiny
There's space
and
travel
stuff
of
like
some
that.
kind,
You never
right?
actually, like in Destiny, you never fight in space. You always go to another planet and then fight on that planet. So
But that counts because you're going from planet to planet,
yeah.
100%. Yep. Yep. The Xenosaga, which is kind of the spiritual successor to Xenogears on the PS1, another great JRPG. But Xenosaga was, and this one that Angela Curry brought up earlier, obviously clearly set in space. Most of your time is spent on these giant starships, and it's really cool. It's got a little bit of a Gundam Wing vibe to it as you jump into these mechs and start fighting and battling each other. Some very cool upgrade abilities in that series. I think there's 3 episodes, so I'm still not sure how that series wraps up, but episode 1 was great. Episode 2 was almost as good, and yeah, so Xenosaga are pretty great games set in space as well. Although the cutscenes are incredibly long. I'm talking like think Metal Gear Solid, but maybe even a little bit longer at times, to the point where at least they let you pause it, because there's times you have to stand up and walk away because you're just sitting there watching a movie. So you would love it. You would love those cutscenes. Yeah. Star Wars Galaxies was the very first MMO. I didn't even know what a MMO was. I hadn't heard anything really about EverQuest at that point, or Ultima Online, or some of these earlier MMO games. And so when Star Wars Galaxies came out, went to a friend's house, and his brother was on his PC playing what was clearly a Star Wars game. It looked like third person, some kind of action adventure. I couldn't tell what it was. So I sat down and watched him play, and I was asking all these questions, and I saw his hotbar at the bottom of the screen full of all these moves he could perform, and I was like, what is this? And that's when I first learned the ins and outs of an MMO and how you roll a new character and you design them, you pick their class, and I was hooked. And so Star Wars Galaxies was fantastic. I loved that, especially once you started to be able to jump around between planets and stuff. It was a lot of fun. Loved that one. I was never a big Warhammer fan. So I don't know if you ever had any friends, maybe you were into Warhammer, where you buy the figurines and you paint them, and you know what I'm talking about with Warhammer stuff?
I've never paid attention to Warhammer at all. Isn't that just mainly...
But you're familiar with it?
Yeah, I've heard of it. Isn't that just like a PC exclusive game, though? So I don't really care about it.
Well, I mean, originally it was a tabletop game where you've got all your figurines, and it's basically like, I don't know if it's like Dungeons and Dragons. I'm sorry for those of you who play these games, but I know it's there's lots of ways you can tailor how the game is played. I had friends who really got into it. Very much collectibles, and you could paint them if you want. You could buy them painted or pay others to paint them, and some cool stuff there with the collectible aspect, but I never got into it. It wasn't until this game called Warhammer 40K Dawn of War came out on the PC. All of a sudden I got interested. It essentially was, if you combine aspects of things like Halo with things like StarCraft, with even a little bit of Warcraft, so it's a real-time strategy game, but the fact that you are space marines and you're battling these aliens, and you have a lot of Warcraft type vibes in it because you're battling these orcs, and yet of course at some point in the story you have to team up to take down a scarier enemy. It's really, really fun, and their expansion for that was pretty great too. I'm pretty sure the third one just came out, Dawn of War 3.
Yeah,
I have no idea how it is.
One or expansion or
Yeah,
something.
my PC couldn't handle even the oldest Dawn of War game right now because it's that shot. But those were really fun games that were set in space. So, sorry, by the way, Derek, interrupt me if you have a thought or another game to add. I'm just going through the list here.
Well, what's the game, and they just released the second one. It's a strategy game with aliens and humans fighting them. It's real popular.
You're not talking about StarCraft, are you? StarCraft 2 came out
No.
like 7 years ago.
No. It just came out on Xbox One and PS4 last year. Dang it! But it came out.
Was it
on
Wasteland?
No, I bought it too. Why am I? It's got literally the cover's got like an alien's face on it for the second one.
Oh, XCOM.
Yeah.
Yep. I'm glad you mentioned that one. That's a great strategy game that needs to be on that. Well, it's not really a list. We're not making a best of list. We're
No.
just listing games.
Just
that are set in
listing
space.
ones that are good or loved by.
Yes, XCOM. Good call. And XCOM 2. I need to get XCOM 2. Now that we're talking about these space games and strategy games, I'm really wanting to play some space strategy stuff. XCOM 2 would scratch that itch. There's a really fun open world game with fully destructible, not fully destructible, but mostly destructible environments called Red Faction Guerrilla. And this was mostly overlooked. And I know a lot of people skipped this game because the Red Faction series is hit or miss. And Guerrilla was a great game. And basically the main weapon you start out with is this giant sledgehammer, and it's got kind of this. like this impact type power to it, where it can knock down these girders that hold up these entire buildings. And of course, you got tons of explosives. So it kind of has the explosive and creative ability of something like a Just Cause, where you can blow up everything. But it actually had a decent story, I thought. They had a good reason for you to go out, and it's set on Mars, I believe. But it's very open world. You can drive these dune buggies all around. You can get out and go set explosives, get your giant hammer out and start knocking stuff down, get a big bazooka out and shoot rockets. That was really fun, and I never finished it, but Red Faction Guerrilla is one of those games I got from GameFly, and then I ended up keeping it for like 4 or 5 weeks just because it was fun. It was a lot of fun to play. Borderlands, we already mentioned. Super Mario Galaxy 1 and 2, we already mentioned. I put Destiny down. That was one game that came to mind for me. You're clearly jumping between planets there, and there's some really, really cool environments they introduced because they've got a wide variety of planets. Boy, I'm getting excited for Destiny 2, by the way. I'm getting really pumped for that. That's going to be fun.
Mm-hmm.
Ratchet and Clank, and of course Doom, and I know there's many, many others, but just seemed appropriate to talk about some of our favorite games set in space with Guardians of the Galaxy, Mass Effect Andromeda. It's just and of course Star Wars releasing movies every year now for whatever reason.
Well,
so things set in outer space are
this
interesting.
Past Friday, Prey released.
And Prey, that's right.
Which is
and don't
set
forget
on a
the
space
epic
station,
movie Passengers that you should all watch. It's so amazing.
Yeah,
just
can't
kidding.
wait
Just
to
kidding.
Get on to that.
Don't watch it.
I actually own Prey.
Not a good movie.
And I have not started it. But it's actually getting pretty good reception. So it's supposed to be a pretty, I don't know if it's horror, but it does have a lot of like scares to it, and it's set on like a space station, and apparently the story has somewhat of a twist. So it sounds interesting. It looks like BioShock / Dishonored, and it's made by the people that made Dishonored, so that's not surprising. But yeah, hopefully next week I'll be able to actually talk about it. But with me being so busy this whole weekend, and anytime I did game, I was so tired, I just went to like my default games that I already know that aren't like me thinking or getting scared of. So I did not play Prey. Did you download it? Because you have access to it.
It's downloaded, yeah. It's downloaded and ready to play, actually, and I'm pretty excited about it. My plan this week was, okay, I feel like I've played enough Mad Max, and I think I get the idea of this. It's time to move on to something new. That was kind of my thought process this week. But we're going to go ahead and shift into what we're playing. Mad Max actually has gotten its hooks into me in a surprising way. Yes, it's a repetitive game, but I'm actually really enjoying the gameplay loop all of a sudden, and I'll tell you why. I just discovered that you can go to this guy Griffa at any point to really upgrade your skills, your abilities, and all of a sudden I'm a much better fighter. Now I've got my car upgraded, and it's got a new paint job, and it looks really cool, and I can actually take down squadrons of enemy cars pretty quickly. And it's really, really fun. And for a while, I was kind of struggling. Every battle took me a long time, and I was driving in circles to try to get a good angle on the enemy.
Is that
and
like the guy you can meet on the cliff or something?
Yeah, he's got like the giant backpack and the goggles on, and but yeah, you'd go to him, and apparently I've been building up all these Griffa points, and you can plug them into weapon strength, or your overall health, or how much water you get when you're looting, and same with scrap and all that kind of stuff. So I upgraded, and I was like, holy cow, all of a sudden I'm a lot stronger, and I'm getting a lot more when I loot stuff. So that was really cool. And then I started upgrading. So far I've met 3 allies, and I've been upgrading their forts. And it's actually really fun to go around and find the different places I need to gather the materials to upgrade their fort. So now I've got all these different crews that will go out and gather scrap for me. Or every time I go back to the fort, it'll auto-refill my gas, my water, my health. And I'm having a lot of fun upgrading this stuff all of a sudden. I don't care about the story.
Yeah.
Like, there's a mission I'm supposed to go do next. I don't know that I feel like this is a game I have to finish, but I'm going to keep playing it till it's not fun anymore. And right now I'm having a lot of fun with it. The combat's really fun. I've upgraded some things to the point now where I wouldn't put it on the level of a Batman. Definitely not on the level of a Shadow of Mordor. I just think of 2 other WB games with similar counter-based battle systems. But it's still fun. It's still really, really fun. And, of course, the car combat is a blast.
Yeah, I was going to say, to me, the standout of that game compared to, like, well, we'll just say other WB games was I really
Yeah.
liked the car combat. Yeah, the world's kind of bland, but I don't blame the game. That's Mad
Right.
Max. Like that's just
It
what you're
is.
gonna get. You're supposed to be in a desert.
Yeah.
But what
Yeah.
I was
Well,
gonna
to their
say,
credit,
go ahead, finish it.
they've put enough things in that world, even
Yeah.
though it is empty. There's lots of vast open desert. There's enough loot camps you can loot. These oil camps you can take over. Very much like the forts in Far Cry. You can get up on a hill and you can get your binoculars out and scope out how you want to take it. There's zero stealth in this game. Once you're in range, it doesn't matter if you're behind a rock. They know you're there, and you just have to charge in and start blowing everything up. But I think they give you enough to do in the world and enough fast travel points that I haven't quite yet felt like I'm just wasting my time driving in this empty space. That's just my experience so far.
All right. Well, the only thing I was going to say when you were describing it, because I like the game and I know I sound negative towards it because I've gotten kind of burnt out, but I think the main reason, let me get back up here, but the main reason was every game is repetitive. Like that's a fact. But for that game, it always just felt repetitive for me because I never felt like I was really growing as a character or learning new abilities or getting stronger. So when you were describing how you discovered where to upgrade, which I know I did upgrade, I know I met with that guy at least once, but that you became, I wouldn't say OP, but you became stronger and faster and you started noticing it kind of clicked for you. And that's kind of how I feel about a lot of games, especially open world games. Like right now I'm playing The Witcher 3, and before that I played Mass Effect Andromeda. And I remember, well, I'll start with Mass Effect Andromeda. I started out fine. You get that excitement of playing a new game. You're like, okay,
Yep.
it wasn't the greatest when I first started because I had too high of expectations, but it wasn't bad. But as I kept playing, I was like, I don't know if I really like this game. I don't like all this research and develop because it's kind of overwhelming. But then when you I don't know, I created a gun I really liked. Like I got the Sidewinder, which I talk about, and I freaking love that gun. And then I started modding it, and then I started getting other guns, and I started figuring out the modification system, or at least somewhat. I wouldn't say I'm a pro at it, but I got good enough where I could one-shot guys and stuff like that. Once I started doing that, that's when I was like, I just want to keep playing the game. Like I like the story, but I was like, I just want to keep playing the game. Like I started doing, I was at like 22 hours into the game, I was at the last story mission. I didn't finish the game until over 60 hours. For the
Holy
next
cow.
30 plus hours, all I did was visit planet to planet, and I made every single planet 100% viability level. So all I did was explore, do side quests, kill random things, and that's all I did for like 30
So
something
did you get a
hours.
plat for that game? Did you
Huh?
finish it completely? Did you plat that game?
I did finish it completely, but I didn't platinum, if that's what you're asking. I'm sorry, it was cutting out.
That's all right.
I think I got like 50% of those trophies. There's a lot of like trophies. I looked at it because I thought about it. I'm like, I really love this game. What's the plat like? And then I looked at the trophy and I'm like, no, I don't want to do those. But anyway, so the point I was trying to make is it seems like it for that game and for Mad Max, it kind of just like hooked because it was already fun, but it got really fun when you started grasping everything and when you started like leveling up and all that. And the same thing with The Witcher 3. I want to talk about that for a second. That is the main game I'm playing. The Witcher 3, the first time I played it through, I understood the system somewhat. And I understood it enough to finish the story. But I will be the first to admit, and I've said this before, it's such a big game. And back when I played this was just 2 years ago, but this is how I've changed as a gamer. I was very story, maybe a side quest, story. Like that's how I played games. I liked to see the story out. I didn't like being distracted too much, and I like completing games and moving on. That's how I always was because I bought a lot of games. Now I've kind of changed as a gamer. I still buy a good amount, but I don't buy as much. And I've realized I'm not very story. In fact, a lot of games I'm like, I don't even care about the story. I want to get the systems down, figure out how to play this game, and then I just want to loot everything. Like I'm playing the set for my new game plus playthrough, I'm going to collect all the armor and weapon sets. So I already started with the Griffin. I think it's the Griffin School armor and weapon set. So I already got that. And I'm going to keep moving on. And so all I'm doing is a bunch of side quests with a little bit of main quests. And I'm not moving through the game very fast, but I am playing a lot of hours. And it's the best part of it is I'm able to up the difficulty because I'm getting better at the game. I joked around.
You're doing New Game Plus, right?
Yeah, and I joked with Nate Bacon because Nate Bacon was like saying the reason he loves The Witcher 3 is it's not just to go beat something up and then move on. He's like, you gotta study it. Like, you gotta know what the beast's weakness is. And I jokingly said, I study nothing. I don't read. I just kill. And that would be the best way to describe my first playthrough of The Witcher. If I got stuck on something, I would then just go to a guide and be like, how do I kill it? But now I'm not going to any guides or anything. The only thing I'm doing is studying. Like, I'll go and read the Bestiaria or whatever it's called. And I'll
The
read,
Bestiary, yeah.
I'll read that, and I'll be like, oh, he's weak to this oil, and he's weak to this sign. How's my sign upgrade on this weapon?
Or maybe a bomb that you've never used. You're like, whoa, dancing star is useful, or whatever. Yeah.
And that's the other best part is because I'm looting so much. Every time I go to my alchemy or go to my what's it called, crafting, I always have something new to craft, like a new bomb or a new oil or something like that. So that's been what I've enjoyed about the game. I'm not saying I won't beat the story. I'm definitely planning on playing through The Witcher 3. I'm not going to 100% it. I'm going to play through it like you're playing Mad Max until I'm sick of The Witcher, but I'm going to make sure I finish it so I can say I beat this game twice. But I'm just enjoying it way more. And I already love this game.
Yeah.
But I'm enjoying it way, way more that I can emphatically say, without any more doubt in my head, that this is the best game I've played in this gen. Maybe even of all time if you knock nostalgia out of there. So that means
it's funny that we're both playing these open world games from 2015.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, in my opinion, you guys have all, if you've listened to the show, you know how much I love The Witcher 3, one of my favorites ever. I don't think Mad Max holds a candle to it, so don't misunderstand me. But it is very cool that we're both playing these open world games from 2015 and enjoying them more than we maybe had before or thought we were going to. It actually makes me think maybe a future topic, especially if there's a slow news week, would be let's revisit 2015 and see what we think now as we look back on that year, because that was a fantastic year.
Because I didn't even give The Witcher 3 Game of the Year, and it wasn't because I didn't speak highly of it. In fact, I think we started the show in early 2016, and one of the things we did is we did a Game of the Year for 2015. Like, I think that was our first show. And I put The Witcher 3 probably in my top 3. So I
think
had
it was
nothing,
2 or 3. It was high. Yeah.
I had nothing but praise for it, but I was like, oh, Rocket League's the greatest thing. And I think Rise of the Tomb Raider or something else I loved. I was like, oh, I love it more than The Witcher 3 or Assassin's Creed Syndicate, something like that. And
Bloodborne, maybe?
Yeah, no, I think Bloodborne's a lot further back than in fact, that's another game. The Witcher 3 and Bloodborne would no doubt be my top 2 for 2015, and I know for a fact they were not my top 2. So the point I was trying to make is The Witcher 3, and this is the game I wanted to make sure I said, is better than Dragon Age Inquisition. Now, when I go play Dragon Age Inquisition for the second time, I might change my mind. But keep in mind, though, for those people that are like, well, that's just because you're playing it now and you're overly emotional. I did play the DLC for Dragon Age Inquisition. I spent over 20 hours doing it. I played all the DLC, maybe 6 months ago? So I had all those emotional feelings coming back up with Dragon Age, and I do love that game. But The Witcher 3 is way more fun to play, and I do enjoy Dragon Age gameplay. I think people rip on it way too much. But I think The Witcher 3 is more fun to play, and I love the world. Like, just everything about it, I just love it. I like staring at the game. Like, I take a lot...
That's a big deal for you, because I've heard you... I know you love Dragon Age Inquisition, so for you to say, I think this game is higher on my personal list than this one, that's a big deal. And then also, I think BioWare is about to pull out their advertising. Thanks a lot, man.
I do love Inquisition, though, so I don't want anybody to take it as I'm knocking it or I'm overly emotional about The Witcher 3. And I actually think it's funny, in a year like 2017 where we're overloaded with games, this is again something I would never do. I would never replay a game I finished, especially during a year like this, during a season. I have zero. I'm gonna play Prey just so I can talk about it on the next show. I have zero interest in playing Prey, and it's all because
Yeah.
I want to play The Witcher 3. And
Yeah.
when I booted up my PC and got it all set up, or I should say my little Steam box, or you want to call it Alpha box, when I booted it up, the first thing I went to, oh, let's see what The Witcher 2 looks like. And so I had actually started already, and so I was in probably like a couple hours of The Witcher 2, and I was like, oh, it looks really nice in 1080p. I was like, I might want to replay this one too, because I've only played The Witcher 2 once. So I'm really just invested in the franchise. I really like the character and the world. And so going back and playing it, even though it's this busy season, and just having as much fun as I have, it makes me start going, man, I just don't need to buy as many games as I do, because the games I already have, they feel brand new. They feel so good. Like Andromeda, I could keep playing that. I really could.
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned Witcher 2, because I do think Witcher 2 actually has a more compelling main
Yeah.
storyline, a main through line
I
story.
like the mystery
It's got
it had a better
There's
mystery.
a mystery, yeah, and there's also these two factions you have to pick between early on, and that totally changes your experience. If you go back and you play it, you actually have a whole new area and a way of playing, depending on which side you choose to support. And then that plays out in the ending as well. You have a major choice to make at the end. It's pretty fantastic. Now, in The Witcher 3, they interview you at the beginning of that game, and they kind of ask you questions about how you handled those decisions in Witcher 2. It's a pretty cool way to tie them together, but I do think, as much as I love The Witcher 3, I think The Witcher 3 had a overall better experience. Even narrative-wise, I just think the main storyline, if you're just comparing main storyline, no side stuff, Witcher 2 is a better story.
I
overall
agree.
than Witcher 3.
I do like The Witcher 3 story so far. I'm not being as harsh on Yennefer as I was before, because I plan on
Because she's the best.
I mean, she is good looking, but after seeing Triss again, and I put Triss in my alternative outfit, I was like, ooh, I might have to go with you again. I just love redheads.
Here come with
I
the
freaking
thingies
love
again. Here we
redheads.
go.
Triss is so hot. But anyway, so that's
No,
been...
man. Yennefer and Geralt are soulmates, man.
I
I know
know.
she's feisty, but there's something about their back and forth. I think it almost feels like a real couple. I love their interaction.
It's funny because I
together.
just got to the part in the game where you meet up with Trish, and I'm walking with her, and I don't remember her saying this, but she probably said it the first time I played it. And I'm walking with her, and she's talking to me, and she's just like, he says something about how people are treating her, like she's being treated unfair, and she was like you can talk, you let Yennefer mistreat you or use you or something like that, and I was like, oh, that's why I didn't like her, is because I sympathize more with like how Trish viewed Yennefer, and that was Yennefer was this jerk of a woman, and then Trish was more to me like the needy one, like I need you. So now my personality's changed more, where I'm like I kind of want the a-hole woman. I don't want the one where I need you.
No, man, it's not even that she's an a-hole. It's that she's confident, she's independent, she can do her own thing, and then when her and Geralt are together again, she loves him and she loves their relationship. But then she can also go off and handle her own
Oh,
business.
you sound
She
like
doesn't
a
have to follow him around.
feminist. Get out of here with your
Yeah,
feminist crap.
she's awesome. Yennefer's awesome.
I do like her. So we'll see. Hopefully
yeah.
I'll stick with picking Yennefer and not being a jerk. I just remember taking so much pride. And there's one particular scene where you're alone with Yennefer, and it's your moment to like tell her you love her or that you want to be with her. She actually shows she's vulnerable. And I remember being so happy to be like, bitch, I don't like you at all. I'm with Trish.
Is that up on the snow, like up on the mountain or whatever,
Yeah.
when they're sitting there?
I broke her, and I was so happy. I
Oh
was
my
like,
gosh.
yeah. But this time I plan not to do that.
So you treated her, you basically just like you would prepare for a beast battle. You were like, okay, what's her weakness? How can I break her down? How can I defeat her?
I lubed my
Congratulations.
sword with the right oil. Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Double meanings, people. Double meanings.
I avoided it, but you went ahead and took a swing at it. Nice work. Nice work. But no, you're spot on. Your description of Witcher 3, that's exactly... You know what? It's not exactly, because I didn't play through Mad Max and then come back to it for a second playthrough. It's not exactly the same. But that same feeling of, oh, I get it, is what I'm experiencing right now with Mad Max. and I really love it. It's a crazy, insane world. Everyone there is violent and out for themselves and nuts, and it's just fun. It's just flat out fun. In the same way that I really loved the most recent Mad Max movie.
Yeah, I liked
Um,
it. Yeah.
I can't sit here and say, hey, that script, that dialogue was amazing. Actually, some of the lines are really cheesy, but it doesn't matter. It fit perfectly with that movie. I don't want it to be any different. I don't want the writing to be any different. That's how I want it to be when I watch a movie like that. This game very much carries through the vibe of Mad Max. If you like that movie or that series, that setting, it's great. It's got this great insanity to it all, and it's just fun. It's just flat out fun. And you have to, unfortunately, there's a learning curve and there's some kind of boring, repetitive stuff you have to push through. And then once you are able to level up yourself and your car enough, once I finally gave Max basically these iron knuckles. Now he's got these awesome knuckles that he uses, and they do a ton of damage. And now he's got this jacket that really helps defend, but he also looks a lot cooler. He's got this black leather jacket. And he's got all this ammo strapped onto him because I've got my ammo upgraded. He looks really cool. And I changed his face to now have a big, thick beard and oil on his face. He looks awesome. And so all of a sudden the game went from being, hey, my guy always looks bloody, and he's wearing this undershirt, and he looks weak and like he's stumbling along. Now I look like this absolute post-apocalyptic badass, and I absolutely love it. I'm having a blast with that game. I totally agree with scores that put it right around the 8 range because there's enough glitchiness and enough repetitiveness. I totally get that. But dude, 8 is a fun game.
Yeah,
So,
it sounds like I should give it more of a shot. I mean, like I said, it's not that I didn't put good hours into it. I probably put over 15 to 16 hours on it. Now, that being said, it was because I played it on 2 different systems.
yeah, you split it up. That's
Yeah,
right. Yeah,
so
you
I
started over.
played the same thing twice.
Right.
But I kind of got on the same thing where I'm like, every time I would start, I was like, I really like this. And then I'd be like, I'd hit a part where I just kept dying, and I was like, this is annoying. And I just don't.
By the way, you know how we've been praising Zelda so much? We actually haven't mentioned Zelda yet, and I don't have much to say about Zelda this time. One of the things that we talked about with how cool Zelda is that you go up to the tower and you have to actually physically see stuff
Same
and mark it.
thing
Remember
with,
we talked about
yeah.
that? Yeah, Mad Max, you go up in these hot air balloons, and you have to use your binoculars to
Spot area.
physically mark locations, and then your map starts to fill out. They're doing this very cool thing that Zelda, I think, does better, obviously, but Mad Max is doing it too in its own cool way. So they give the open world a sense of the map is just blank, and you can only see a few landmarks. You don't know where to go, and as you fill it in, you start to see it really populating with all these things you could possibly do. And as you unlock new areas and you find the next hot air balloon and you unlock that area and start spotting new places to go, I don't know, maybe I'm overstating it. I was told last week I kind of overstated how good the movie Creed is, so maybe I'm doing that with Mad Max, but I just think it's flat out fun with flaws. Just like a game like Horizon. I think Horizon's better, but it's a flat out fun game that has some flaws. So Mad Max is great. I highly recommend it. 2 other games I'm playing, just want to mention real quick. I did buy Wonderboy the Dragon's Trap on the Switch. It's a really fun retro throwback game. Let me take that back. It's a really cool looking throwback game. I can't say that it's really fun. It actually plays pretty old school. And by that I mean that the controls, the jumping, all that's pretty stiff. It's not really great. But there are some cool things about it, some cool powers as you switch between your different animals that you get turned into, and shooting fire, using your sword, all those kind of things, walking on walls. Some of that's pretty fun, but it definitely feels like playing an old Nintendo game. They just happened to paint this really beautiful kind of cartoony paint look on it, and it looks really, really pretty. And there's also, you can pull the right trigger at any point and swap over to the 8-bit old school style, which is cool. It's a cool feature to have that. So anyway, I like it. I don't know that I can recommend it at $20 unless you really like kind of old school platforming action games. It's got a high difficulty curve, in my opinion. I died a lot in that game already, so just be warned. It's not the easiest game either. And of course, a lot of Mario Kart 8. We don't have to talk about that tonight. We've talked about Mario Kart 8 a lot, but I have been playing quite a bit of that, working my way through all those 150, trying to get 3 stars. And I did finally try 200cc, and that's crazy.
I will say, I know I won't talk too much about Mario Kart 8 either. It's a great game. But we are going to try to play it more and more as a community. So if you are on the fence or you're planning on getting a Switch soon, definitely pick that game up. I think the community, at least for a month or so, until the next big thing comes out, people are going to stay on it. So every weekend we're trying to play. I did play a little bit with you and Frank. It was weird because I'm like, I couldn't connect. This is at the old house. I couldn't connect while chatting on the PS4, so I had to get up, go handheld to my router, and then it connected, no problems. But I couldn't chat with you guys, so I'm playing, and then after like 4 races, both of you are like, "Bye." I'm like, jerks! I just quit my Witcher 3 game to play Mario Kart 8, and you played 4 races, and then bye.
But then you went back to Witcher 3, so
I
you
went
were
back
all right.
to Witcher.
You're okay. Yeah. No, I thought you were both bailing. So what sucks about not having voice chat. We could have actually said, like, I could have told you, hey, I'm going to keep playing, because I did. I went and played some single player. I thought you and Frank were both saying see ya.
No,
So-
I didn't. I just saw you and Frank say bye, and I was like, "Oh, okay."
We need that voice chat, man. We need that voice chat.
Freaking Frank
So-
Clark. Come on, guys,
right.
we're gonna play, and then we play 5 minutes later.
Yeah.
Bye.
Yeah.
Freaking Frank.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, anytime you see us on there, feel free to jump in and join us, or send us a message that you want to play. That'd be awesome. But also, if you go into Mario Kart 8's menu, you go to the online mode, pick multiplayer. When you look at your friends list, you can see if they have a little racing flag beside them, they're currently playing online, and you should be able to jump in and join that group. Feel free to join us anytime. There's some built-in messages you can send each other, like, hey, hello, this is my last game, that was fun. You can, but we also oftentimes have a PS4 chat group going where you can talk on there. And of course, Jason Marshall, I think, set up a Discord group, which I have not had time to go look at, but I want to get in, check that out. That might be a nice filler app to use on our phones
Yeah, that would be better.
to chat that way. So we should probably actually do that, since Jason got it set up for us. But
Well, it's better because
Yeah.
I get tied down to my PS4 controller through the headset, and that's
Yeah.
not as it's not easy
It's not ideal.
to carry around as maybe like my phone or something like that.
yeah, because I've got my phone with me anyway,
Yep.
so why not have the Discord app running in the background, chatting to
Yep.
people. So, all right, so you guys are all welcome to join us for that. At some point, I want to set up some kind of tournament for that. I think they have built-in tournaments, but I don't fully understand how they work yet. I tried joining some of the Nintendo Voice Chat group tournament, and it looked like you play a certain number of races and you get a point accumulation. But it was really strange because I jumped in there. Our friend Joe Ryan from the group jumped in there as well. And we had several races where it was just one-on-one. I thought that was very strange. And then like 5 or 6 people would join, and there'd be like 7 of us. And that was fun. And then they would leave, and it was just one-on-one again. So it was very weird. I don't understand how that works. And we would get different points every time. So if you won first place with a whole bunch of people, you got like 4 or 5 points. If it was just one-on-one, you got 3 points. And so I don't know. I'm not sure how the tournaments are set up. I kind of just expected like a straight-up bracket of some sort. But I don't know. What do I know? All right, well, that'll do it for this week for episode 70. Yeah, I'm with you, Derek. We'll try to play a little bit of Prey so we can talk about something recent for next week's episode. But right now, we're both playing games from 2 years ago. What can we say?
And I'm
It
not
is what it
quitting
is.
on Zelda. I love Zelda.
Yeah.
That's why it's weird that I would switch to The Witcher 3 while I was loving Zelda, but I think
Yeah.
The Witcher is just that more familiar game right now, whereas Zelda. We can end the show, but I want to share this because this was very frustrating. I traveled all the way to a tower, and it was a long journey, and I don't have any shrines or anything by it. And I'm like, oh, I'll just get this tower real quick. Sure enough, I have 15 arrows, and the 15 are electricity arrows. Well, guess what the 3 enemies that are hovering around this lake in front of the tower are? Electricity. And I can't
Yep,
swim
I remember that one.
because they'll kill you while you're in the water. I can't shoot them, and I'm like, I'm stuck. I don't even know where to go. I have no way of teleporting out, buying stuff, and then teleporting back. Like, I'm going to have to travel back. So I got mad and cried like a little baby and went back to The Witcher 3.
Yeah, I'm in a weird spot in Zelda where I think I talked about this before. I am simply just, when I fire it up, just going to do a shrine or 2 or trying to find a few more Korok seeds or just, check out more of the map. I am at the point where I can go to the castle and fight Ganon. I'm pretty powered up. I'm ready to go. I just don't want the game to end yet. So I've slowed down playing a lot of Zelda, playing a lot more Mad Max and Mario Kart 8. But, I've probably jumped into Zelda 3 or 4 times this week just for like an hour, exploring a little bit, finding some more stuff.
Yeah.
Great game.
Both
So.
that
Cool. Well,
and
thanks,
Witcher
Derek.
3
Thanks
are
for your
great.
time tonight. Sorry for those of you who rely on this at a certain time. It's probably going to come out a little bit late. I got to do some late editing on this one. But we appreciate you listening, appreciate you sharing it, and we will talk to you next week.
Bye.
Who is your daddy?
I am the father.
You fathers will understand.
My father taught me many things here.
I got an idea. How about you all sit there quietly while I make dad noises?